comments. Thank you very much. Christian, thanks to you as well. I didn't really know what to expect in terms of turnout today. This is the first event of its kind here, and I gotta say I'm impressed. I'm a little overwhelmed, actually. I was expecting a smaller group, so this is terrific. There's somebody I would like you to meet before I even introduce myself. My colleague from IBM, Ashraf Pandeli. Ashraf, please stand up. I hope many of you after the session today will have a chance to talk with Ashraf, both today and for many, many months and years to come. So, briefly, my name, Don Seymour. I'm based in Prague, Czech Republic, and I work for IBM. So I've worked in CE for about 4 years. I've been to Romania as a guest of Ashraf's for maybe 15 or 20 times over those 4 years. I love coming here. I love coming here working with Ashraf. I love coming here because mostly the people, okay? It's interesting work, but it's even more interesting people. So thank you for listening to me for just a few minutes. I want to tell you a story. And any good story, you start at the beginning. Then we move to the middle, we talk a little bit about the strategy, but briefly, not so much to bore you, but more to sort of set up the portfolio around process management and the thinking behind our investment in our capabilities within the portfolio, focused around process management. So, in the beginning, can anybody tell me, when was IBM founded? How many years ago? It's an old company. For an IT company, it's really old. It's like a dinosaur. Yeah, more than 100. 103 years ago. Okay. This is what we sold. Timekeeping systems, weight scales, and wait for it, meat slicers. This was our original product portfolio. But apparently we had some pretty good salespeople. We grew, we evolved, and we expanded the portfolio to include things like computers. 1995, what's the significance for IBM and Romania? This is when we officially set up IBM Romania. Now we've been selling in Romania for many decades before that through our partners, but this is the official beginning, almost 20 years ago now, of IBM in Romania. Okay. So that's great, right? We're an old company. We've been in Romania for more than almost 20 years now. Over time, we've clearly shifted our focus from things like meat slicers to mainframes to software to now things that we'll talk about briefly in our smarter process portfolio. But before we talk about the portfolio, what's driving the investments we make in that portfolio? What shifts do we see in the marketplace? What are some opportunities that I'm guessing you're probably thinking about how do you take advantage of? So before we go into the strategy, I just want to get an idea of, frankly, who is in the audience, right? The agenda is clearly about BPM. In terms of your own work, your own organization, just a show of hands, who is just thinking, not started, but who's just thinking about BPM as an initiative? Okay, you're thinking about it, that's good. Okay, so you at the beginning, right? So who started? Who's made some progress? Who's seen some of the good and the bad, the pain, right? The joy and the tears. Okay, so you're thinking and you're doing. That's great. Okay, and who's actually got some results? Who can stand up here and say, I did it, this is what we delivered, and this, and my customers are happy. Who's done it? Okay. Oh, right on. Do you want to stand up here and tell us your story?
Well, it might be not a very...
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the pictures on the chart up here around our strategy, and the strategy contains 3 elements. The first one is data. And basically the picture is saying there's going to be a lot of devices, a lot of objects out there that are generating data. It's not just your smartphone, your tablet, or your PC, right? It's sensors, all kinds of data, social websites, social media, right? Data is the new oil. It's the new natural resource. But how do you tap into it, right? How are you going to take advantage of it? How are you going to show your knowledge workers or your customers, insight about products or services that you may have that you think they should take advantage of? And how quickly can you empower your employees to make decisions based on some of these insights that you've gleaned because you're now able to tap into more and more sources of data, both within your enterprise and externally. The second area where our strategy is focused is around cloud. Now, people who are focused on cloud probably have a similar conference going on today with a similar group of people that are just focused on cloud. So I'm not here to explain cloud, right? I'll just tell you what I think of cloud. I think of cloud as basically being capacity, available capacity. And that capacity, because it's available, and it's available almost instantly, like a utility, like turning on a light switch, it gives you speed. Okay, now your competitors, maybe they're evaluating cloud, maybe they're just thinking about it, or maybe they're doing something about it, but this is giving them a speed advantage. At the same time, cloud provides cost advantage. There are trade-offs. It's not a panacea. It's not a perfect world. But how are you evaluating cloud and considering making cloud a piece of your larger strategy? I'm not proposing you lift up your data center and you move it onto the cloud. Not at all, right? You have vital systems of record, applications, and they have to stay there. You have to have control over it. But not every project has to exist and start and run and stay inside your data center, right? You can consider cloud for certain projects or for getting certain projects started and started more quickly. Okay, lastly, systems of engagement. This is really about social, mobile, and security. It's about meeting your customers where they are, meeting them in a sort of, not just a form factor, but in a manner that is personal, right? That shows you, your organization, your department, your product and service area, that you understand the customer. And today, I don't know if any of you went on Yahoo here in Romania, but there was a story about United Airlines. Unfortunately, it's about an airline from my home country, but in this situation, a customer sent an email to complain about some service experience they had with United. And United Airlines was very caring. They sent an automated response back to this customer's email, and it said, it started off, "Dear human." I think that's very personal. I mean, they didn't say dear animal or dear fish. They right to the human. So imagine, you're trying to empower your employees, your coworkers, to engage with your customers in a way that shows they understand them as a person, as a man or a woman, as a big customer, small customer, and you want to be able to design a type of interaction with that customer that reflects that. And starting off with "Dear human," thank you human for calling, probably not the best way to show that you're able to deliver the kind of experience your customers would expect. Maybe they'll consider moving to a competitor. Right, so now your customers, they're out there, they're on social websites, they're using different mobile platforms to interact with your company, your competitors, right? How are you creating experiences both that are seamless and transparent, but also very personal? How are you taking advantage of data that you have about the customer, data from sources you've never considered, data from sources that don't even reside within your organization? Okay. Now, how do you maintain security? Because It's great to have a personalized experience. Dear Mr. Seymour, thank you for your email. We're sorry you had a bad experience with our airline. Okay, that's all well and good, but if you don't keep my data safe, then I don't trust you. And if I don't trust you, I'm not doing business with you. So social, mobile is fantastic, but the way in which you manage trust with that customer through ensuring security and privacy, critical. Okay, so that's the strategy. 3 things: data, the new oil, cloud, speed, agility, social, mobile, all around giving you more personalized interaction, speed of insight, speed of taking action, making a decision. So how does that translate into smarter process? So smarter process in 2013 is something IBM rolled out as an approach. An approach for how do we coalesce and combine mobile, social, cloud, big data into a set of capabilities that people can actually consume. And it's not one big sort of behemoth product, right? Because you may want to start at different points, right? If you're just getting started, maybe you want to do discovery just to understand what are people doing today, right? Maybe you already know that because you spent years documenting and understanding that. Now you're ready to begin to automate, to manage. And so while we think that customers are always going to be focused around optimization and efficiency, and this is really the bread and butter of BPM, we think there's even more to it. It's how do you use that to gain increased customer centricity, increased understanding of your customers and their needs. And we're making these investments because as technology becomes more pervasive, it's actually becoming harder for your employees to engage with customers, especially if you have lots of systems, especially if they have to go back and forth between lots of screens, especially if they have the customer, say, on the phone at the same time. Okay? And it's managing this kind of complexity that your best workers do fantastically well because they have become the point of integration. Through experience, they have figured out how to quickly get the information they need in order to serve their customers. But for us, in order to really elevate this type of engagement and type of personalization, you need to focus on automation, to manage complexity, to remove it as much as possible in order to improve the quality of the engagement you have with customers. So now, before we dive into all the product kind of bits and bytes and why we think it's so great, let's just stop and use a totally different metaphor to think about process management, process improvement. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to make an omelet, but if you have, the first time you ever tried to make it, you may not have, been born with the knowledge of how to make an omelet. So maybe you looked at a recipe, and the recipe had instructions. So you gathered ingredients, and you tried, right? You mixed eggs and salt, and you put it in a pan. If your experience was like mine, it was a disaster. It wasn't light, it wasn't fluffy, it was like a solid block of egg, okay? But then the next time, maybe you adjusted the heat, okay? Or maybe you mixed the eggs differently, a little more milk, a little more butter, okay? You cooked it more slowly. Over time, hopefully, right, it's getting better, and now when you get to the point where you're kind of proud of your omelets, right? People come over, your kids, they're hungry, you say, how about an omelet? I'll make it for you. Now, what if you change the inputs? What if the special type of butter that you like to use isn't available? How do you adjust? Okay? Somewhere in your technique, you're going to have to make an adjustment, either with heat, time of cooking, maybe the pan that you use. So if your goal is to always have a light, fluffy, delicious omelet that you're proud of to serve friends and family, then your technique is critical, and how you control this process is critical. Now imagine you have kids and you want to teach them how to make an omelet, right? They say one day, Mommy, Daddy, I'll make you an omelet. Let me make it today. And you say, oh God, I know where this is going, right? Because I remember my first omelet. It was a disaster. Okay, so you teach. You tell them, not too much of this, a little bit more of that, right? Over time, they get better. So if your goal is to have a perfect omelet every time, then BPM is a way in which for you to both manage your technique, provide visibility into how you're actually progressing through the process of generating that omelet. And it's also a way for, as new people come into the process of making that omelet, to understand what's the best way to do it so that they can make a good omelet every time as well. All right, so we've got a portfolio, it's got products, it's got capabilities, right? We have competitors, right? They've got products, they've got capabilities. They're formidable, some of these competitors. But I will proudly put our product portfolio up against anybody's and feel very confident that we will have not only an excellent story to tell, but that customers will see that as well. Okay, so for those of you who said you were sort of at the beginning of your journey on BPM, right? Process discovery is a very typical place to start. From my experience, many times it looks like this. You've got one core person who's responsible for documenting a process. And the people over here are the task workers, okay? They do the initial eligibility check. They check documents for verification. They do knockout checks. They do all kinds of different things, okay? But they're each representing a little piece of the process. Now, how could you capture this, right? You could get them in a room, get Post-it notes and a big wall like this, and you could say, where does it start, and what do we do next, and what are the requirements, and what are the decisions? Absolutely valid approach, except that you have to take all of these knowledge workers away from their day job in order to document it. And it takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of iteration. But frankly, once it's done, you almost never go back and change it. Almost never. So, BlueWorks Live, based in the cloud. It's a SaaS offering. You could go to blueworkslive.com right now and you could start working on it. Sign up for free, 30 days. But the main point here is, it's about collaboration. It's about simplicity. There are, you could argue, better tools than BlueWorks Live for process discovery and documentation, right? There's Eris. It's a formidable product, right? It does everything, except be easy to use, right? You've got to be like a superstar, and it takes time to figure out how to use that. But once you know it, it's good. It's good. But if you just want to get started and get going and give people a tool they can actually use right now to capture, BlueWorks Live is your thing. Literally available right now. Easy, simple. Okay. One of the knocks on cloud is, oh, public cloud. Ooh, you know, my mission critical processes are in a public cloud, and is it secure? Okay. Let's just, for argument's sake, say a valid complaint, right? Especially if you've got some like super top secret process, right? That no one else in the world has ever thought of. Maybe public cloud is not the place to put it. So we now offer private cloud for BlueWorks Live, right? Your own dedicated hardware, software, everything isolated, right? It's just yours, but it's the same product, and it's available instantly. Business Process Manager, right? So we very cleverly named our products after the thing that they are and the thing that they do. So our product is called IBM Business Process Manager because it is about BPM. Okay, so Gartner. In a few words, Gartner has looked at a bunch of our competitors, and like I said, there are a lot of them. But when they look at the completeness of our vision in terms of where we're spending our time, money, and research and development dollars around capabilities, they feel that we have the most complete vision amongst all the competitors in this field. And these competitors now need to offer not just process management, but also decision management, also process discovery, and the ability to monitor. So back to cloud, back to speed, back to providing you a way in which to get started right now. So if I said to you, here's money, and here's an idea for an application. Get started. Okay, maybe you spin up a development team, and they get to work. At the same time, you're thinking, where am I going to run it? Okay, my data center, easy. Do I have a server right now that's available for me to use? Is it running the right software? Does it have the right number of CPUs, the right sort of performance specification? Maybe. If you're lucky, yes. If not, you've got to order it, procure it. You've got to load it with software, test it. This takes time. The idea behind BPM on cloud, as I said, is not to take your mission-critical lending application and put it out on the cloud, right? The thing that you kind of, if you're a bank that you run your business with. It's rather about saying, if you have projects that need to start right now, start on the cloud. It's available right now. And then when you're ready, you're done, you've tested it, move it into your data center. Totally legitimate use case. The thing about BPM on cloud is it's the same product that you would be running on premise. Exactly the same. The only difference is the SLAs in terms of performance, right? How many processes you're running, how fast they respond. That's all our responsibility. You don't have to worry about any of that. Okay? You just want a BPM instance running in the cloud. Everything else, we take care of. You simply take care of the application. Another new feature, basic case management. Right, so today, typically customers fall into one of two camps. They have structured processes, and they're trying to automate them, and they have unstructured processes. Say you're a caseworker, you're working on claims, right? So you can automate a claims process straight through, 98% of the time, let's say. But for those 2% that need to be kicked out and investigated manually by a human being, typically that creates a case. And it's called a case because you don't actually know what the outcome is going to be at the beginning. You need to investigate. And maybe, depending on the situation, different people will have to look at it and weigh in and provide their input and their decisions, right? So today, in IBM BPM, you can manage both highly structured, straight through, human-centric type of tasks, all the way over to unstructured, ad hoc, document-centric tasks, all within the same process portal. Okay. Coming into the home stretch, mobile. Okay, so some of the improvements that we've made is basically now we deliver BPM with a out-of-the-box mobile application. So it's a very simple app. Right? Basically, it's all around approvals. So, right, if you have a process that needs approvals, it can, without basically any customization, serve up those tasks that involve approval out to any authorized user who's supposed to be able to look at and make a decision on that step of the process. But furthermore, we've made the coaches, the user interface, lighter and faster, so it loads faster. The user experience is, frankly, it's prettier. And now we have more third-party vendors who are creating their own add-ons or toolkits to make the UIs even nicer looking. And many of these are actually free. Largely, in terms of what comes inside BPM is a development platform for making your mobile apps, right, for free. So our Worklight platform is free in every shipment of BPM. So if you have developers who are working on apps but are struggling with how do I integrate these apps with my systems of record, and how do I manage them over the life cycle of different operating systems on mobile devices and different form factors, right? This is where Worklight comes into play and can give you a tremendous speed advantage and improve the actual quality of your mobile apps. Okay. For us, huge announcement. A huge announcement on October 1st. Operational Decision Manager version 8.7 advanced. So in the beginning I talked about our strategy. I said data, right? We as a company are focused around data and investments in our portfolio to take advantage of data. So now with our new Operational Decision Manager, it now has predictive analytic capability. So it's not just a rules manager for managing decisions, and it doesn't just take into account complex event handling as a mechanism for triggering decision points in a process, right? That's what it's always done. But now it's combined predictive analytics, right? So it's able to look at more complex data and surface insight around customer behavior patterns. And these patterns and these insights can be then used by you in working with your customers to make decisions around what kind of promotion and when should I offer it, and in which form factor, and what time of day, and at what location is the customer in when I want to do it, right, to have the maximum effect. This is now what's inside of this product to give even more, I'll just say, competitive advantage to you in terms of how you enable your knowledge workers and how you engage with your customers. Okay, and coming up on the end here. So, I wanted to share with you one story from a real customer in Spain that makes vaccines. So, on a good day, when they make a batch of vaccines, the vaccine is perfect. And these vaccines are destined for animals, for livestock, to keep them healthy. But if the vaccines are not made properly, it could have a bad effect, right? In a worst case scenario, an animal injected with a bad batch of vaccine could become sick, and maybe will have to be put down, or maybe they'll even die. Okay, so as this company gets feedback from users of the vaccines about problems or issues with the vaccine, they immediately go into a type of case management mode. Okay, which batch did that vaccine come from? Who else has bought that vaccine? Where in our distribution and supply chain do we need to look in order to either pull it off the shelf or to work with our suppliers on ingredients to ensure that they're not giving us something that's bad? Okay, this, in the old days, before BPM, before rules management, could take a month. And if it takes longer than that, then they are out of compliance with EU rules and regulations for being able to resolve cases like this. So a lot of their data, system of record data, is in SAP, different modules, right, from ingredients and supply chain through distribution and point of sale. And in order to figure out who bought it and where is it right now, required a lot of manual work. With BPM, they're able to essentially lift that process up out of SAP, okay, and now they can engage all the different departments in a very seamless, transparent, well-controlled process, where now the process in a bad case takes only a week as opposed to a month, and more than 50% of the times takes 3 days. And this saves lives, right? The more time they take to figure out where the problem is and where to pull stuff off the shelf, the more animals are at risk. To do this in SAP would have cost them $1 million. To do it with IBM BPM cost between 15 and 18% of that amount. And they're able to do it very quickly and see a return on investment in 3 months. So this is a situation where our product is having, I would say, a real impact on real business and, frankly, on things that are making a difference for not only for our customers, but for their customers as well. So that's the end of my story. Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck today in getting a lot out of this conference. Thank you.